when we grow up and our parents say certain things about our bodies or about other bodies or about their bodies, it influences everything. So if
Hmm.
we have a parent who is speaking unkindly about their own body, so here we are as a child looking up at our parents thinking that they're the best thing. And they're like, it's there's a disconnect. If my mom, my dad says that about their body, then what does that say about my body?
Good point.
And we're mirroring what is happening here.
Welcome to Coach Soul, the podcast where we explore therapeutic ways to the best versions of ourselves. I'm your host, Steve Hudgins. I'm a licensed professional counselor dedicated to helping you navigate life's challenges. In each uplifting episode, we'll discuss mental health, relationships, self-care, emotional well-being, and personal growth. Join me and with my co-host, Kenya Evelyn, a therapeutic life coach, where sometimes we'll even welcome special guests to our show that share their experience and expertise. So let's embark on this transformative path together and discover a healthier and happier you. Welcome back to Coach Soul, and it is a very honored privilege to have Marla here. Thank you and welcome to the show, Coach Soul.
Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Steve.
Yeah, so Marla, I mean, you have a very interesting story. And when it comes down to the shaping of image, it just seems like the pressure of how women are to say, act, do, behave, look, it resonates in the commercials that are there. Same for men. You're not a man unless you buy a truck, and you're not that tough if you don't. So I don't want to give free advertisement that way, but it's that just a genre of we have to look, speak, and do a certain thing. I can't imagine, because I'm not a female, what is that pressure? What does that look like for you under pressure?
Well, at the stage I'm in my life, so I'm 51. So I'm in the perimenopause, menopause stage. And this is the stage where actually the woman looks back and says, whoa, I carried a lot.
Mm,
Whoa, I put a lot of pressure on myself. Oh, I let myself feel pressure. I feel the pressure from society and I'm choosing to do it a different way. So some of it is, and I think those are different seasons around on our life where we're like, wow, I am doing something because, let's say our 20s, I'm doing something because of the pressure of my family. And then we step out of that family and we go, oh, I'm not doing that anymore. And so we have these moments where we say no to the pressure, no to what we're supposed to squeeze ourselves into. And then sometimes we don't. And sometimes people are stuck so deeply in the pit of all of these pressures that they normalize it so much that they make it about their life and they make it about their worthiness, their perfection, their I am okay if I'm a certain weight. I am okay if I fit into those pants. I'm okay if I'm the thin one in the family, whatever that story is. And so for me, my journey started very young because I was a curvy little girl. So I had a lot of attention on my body.
sure.
People said, "Oh, you're such a curvy little thing. You're a little fox." Like things that were you would think would be something nice to say. However, what it got into my head was that my body matters. And this is the way I get attention is from my body. So there was a moment, there was a click. And I remember where I was when I got that click. And it was like, my body matters and I need to control what I eat, or I'm not going to get the attention that I've gotten in the past.
Mm, that's kind of a lie that we tell ourselves, and it's like the pressure though. I growing up, I remember my mom being negative and would be pointing out about overweight people. And I'm like, Mom, I mean, we don't know what is happening to anyone who is overweight. We don't know what's happening on the journey that they're in. Why do we need to be critical? But as I grew up, that played a part into me. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, I can't be critical. this is not what I'm called to do. So I made changes in my own life. And when working with my daughter, I'm like, I want you to be healthy minded. Physical
Mhm.
doesn't matter. It's the healthy mind that I want you to be. And very proud of her. She became a like a model, but I was also concerned about, okay, are we eating? Are we taking care of ourselves and not starving ourselves? You said you had that click in the moment. What brought about that click, that awareness for you to say, hey, was it outside influence of men saying that pressure, you got to look a certain way?
I don't remember. I just remember the click. I remember I was
Yeah.
walking down the hallway in my high school and the click happened. So I don't know what led up to it. I don't know if I ate a little bit too much in that, at lunch or what it was, but something kind of clicked in. And I want to say something to what you had mentioned about your mom and about the lies that we tell ourselves. So when we grow up and our parents say certain things about our bodies or about other bodies or about their bodies, it influences everything. So if
Mm-hmm.
we have a parent who is speaking unkindly about their own body, so here we are as a child looking up at our parents thinking that they're the best thing. And they're like, it's there's a disconnect. If my dad says that about their body, then what does that say about my body?
Good point.
And we're mirroring what is happening here. Now, we have to also realize, Dr. Steve, that we are living in a world where thin is the priority and thin does have privilege, thin privilege, they call that. And there is a lot of fat shaming. There are a lot of people who are discriminated because of the size of their body. So, in one way, we can say it's a lie. And another way, we can see that we're literally fighting against a system. So, when every time we take a step to say, I'm okay in my body, I'm safe to be this size, I'm going to love myself right here, right now, we're literally pushing up against a system and we are creating a new system. And that system is, and I think there are a lot of people out there that are doing this, they're saying like, I'm okay where I am.
Mm.
And what is going on against women, against men is not okay.
We
And thank
become
goodness we have
complacent.
this. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Yes.
you could sit and watch like Me TV or some of these others that run these reruns. And like you, I grew up in the 70s, 80s genre of variety of different TV shows. You could look back then, and about 80 to 90% of them were thin because back then the food wasn't as toxic like we have it today. That causes a lot of issues that are happening. But back then, it was just the norm. We didn't think about exercises as much as we do today. But now it's what is your thought on having your nose in electronics and it just being sedentary and how that much weighs on you? Do you think that has contributed to the image of ourselves as we look into electronics?
100%. Especially because what are we looking at?
Hmm.
What is our social media feed? What does come up? Where are we spending our time? Are we spending time lifting ourselves up? Are we spending time looking at things that make us feel bad, comparing ourselves to the person on the screen who is displaying the perfect life?
Hmm.
Right? And we all know intellectually that that body is photoshopped. However, it still hits on that place inside that says, I'm not enough. So you add that to being sedentary, to living a life where we are sitting more. And I
Hmm.
see myself, I coach, I sit more than I'd like, right?
Right.
And so there is that balance where I am I want to. I'm such a movement person, right? And that's a whole other story we can talk about. However, I think the saying is sitting is the new cigarettes. Have you heard that?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That sitting is has been causing so much detriment to our health and the screens and the EMFs and all of the things. I don't think we realize to the extent because we are right now in the research poll. of what's going on. And we do know about our food. We do know that our food, we have so much more processed food. We're eating food that is toxic, that is sprayed. We're way more than when you and I grew up. I
For
mean,
sure.
it's so normalized that eating organic is something special, which is just like what you and I grew up with. And so all these things, they add up. And then if we are eating a lot of processed food, and I just want to say that my work isn't, I'm not a dietitian and I don't give someone a food plan, right? And so that's very important. My work is about understanding what it is that you're desiring from the inside out. And to answer your question, I think the processed food creates an addiction, creates a craving. And so when we overeat over it, there's another layer of shame, but the shame, it's not about the shame, it's about what it is we're actually eating that's creating that desire. And so we're already off the wrong track. I'm not saying I don't eat processed food. I mean, I don't know how you can't. And it's when, is it an always or is it a treat? Is something that has become a staple, all this processed food? Like, what is the balance? Whole food, processed food, if we really look at our diet
It
and then
to
look
me,
at
it's the
mental health from
chemicals
that.
that's in it's the chemicals, right? I love dill pickles. Now, I remember growing up with my grandmother. She lived on a farm, and what she do? All her canning and the natural pickles and the dill
Yes.
and the smell of that, right? Was fantastic.
Yep.
But then you go to the store and you buy a jar of pickles. And I'm like, high corn fructose syrup. And then I had a dietitian say, well, that's healthy. And that's the better alternative than sugar. And I'm like, no, it's not. I
Oh,
don't
it's
know
the
where you got
opposite.
it right.
Where'd she get that? Oh my goodness
I
gracious.
And so I knew my health stuff because of the cancer that I used to have. I don't have it anymore and it won't come back. But
Great.
just knowing my health is important. Knowing your health is important. So I'm looking at this jar of pickles. And so I get another jar of pickles and a different brand. And I'm like, wait a minute, polysorbate 80? Polysorbate 80 messes with your microbiome in your gut. And it also messes with your brain. And I'm like, we need to start pushing back on these companies that are producing these toxic chemicals. And finally we're having some pushback, and there's
Finally.
slow change that's there. But the question becomes, how do we stop it once and not go backwards like we were again? And it's looking at the labels, looking in the food, and looking at, okay, finally we get these food colorings out of our products. I'm hoping that's going to help. But things like polysorbate 80, they changed the name to aspartame to something different. And aspartame has been known to have brain lesions and things of that nature and causing memory loss and a whole bunch of other things. And it's like, I love gum, but I haven't chewed gum in over 8, 9, 10 years because everything has aspartame in it. And it's like, what ways do you keep yourself healthy away from these chemicals?
Well, I live in Maui, and so there's a lot of amazing food here. And no matter where we are, if there's a farmer's market, I think that's a good place to go.
Okay.
Now, and we have to admit though, like there's some people that don't have the resources.
Right.
And so what can they do? Right? What can they do to eat healthier? And so they may pick up the label and it's like, there's this and there's that. What do I do? And that other one, it's too much money. And that causes the mental stress, right? And so I think it's choosing the lesser of the evil. And when it really comes down to it, Steve, it's eating food, like real food. And as much as we can, cooking ourselves, as much as we can, getting excited about that. Now, I know some people are like, yeah, that's not happening. I got too much going on. I get it. I really do. And so, but there's always a healthier choice.
Mm-hmm.
And there is that moment where we have to step away from certain foods that it's not fun. Like it's never fun to give up your favorite treat. It's never fun to choose something healthier, but your body is going to feel better. And when your body feels better, there's a level of self-confidence and self-esteem that happens from that place. And then the body starts feeling better. And then we gravitate towards more and more healthier foods. So I think that it's even better if it's a slower process rather than going from eating things that aren't good to going over here and eating only really healthy things, because that looks like a diet to me. And as we know, diets don't work. There's eventually we're going to go back. And
Right.
so what you and I are talking about is less about even dieting or body image, but really looking at the state of our food in this world and getting a bit of a wake up call on what is in our food and how we can educate ourselves and how to make a better choice.
It's not only just the foods or the chemicals. You got to look at our technology.
Oh, yes.
5G network. When I did 4 years of active duty in Texas at Fort Hood, I did telecommunications. And what I've learned, that was part of my cancer. Diesel exposure, 5G network back in the 1990s after the Gulf War. 5G was being used at that time as a field study because you could go long ranges and real fast. Secondhand smoke. I mean, all this causes that cancer conglomerate. And what I try to tell people is you can turn 5G off your phone to reduce some of the radiation exposure and go back to 4G. But that is also a stimulant to that causes the brain. And then you add the food. I mean, we have so much coming at us, like the LED lights are not good for us either. They flicker too fast and it messes with your mind brain space. But food is the catalyst to everything. And so I want to go back a little bit. You know, growing up in high school, we have that term mean girls type thing where they're always making fun of the other person because they don't fit in. Did you feel like you fit in with your high school students back then?
Oh yes, I was a very popular girl. I was, straight A student. I had it all going on, Steve,
So
right?
what so
I
what do
was
you tell a girl that doesn't have it going on, that struggles with eating and people are making fun of her and as a teenage, what would you share with parents or even the
oh,
younger self?
it's so sad. It's awful. I do think there are a lot more, from what I see, there are lot more advocating where parents and schools are coming in to advocate against bullying and stuff like that, which is really important. Um, it's such a good question that you ask because there's a certain level where the parent, it is out of their control.
Oh yeah.
You know, it really is. And there's only so much we can do. And what can the parent do other than hold that girl, hold that boy, and give them the truth of what is going on and give them the truth of the full spectrum experience of people that are making fun of you are also not well, right? And also what they're saying isn't true. And you are not your body. You are
Mhm.
a deeper place than that. And holding that and loving that girl, loving that boy as much as they can. And I think when we have that fabric of knowing that someone loves us, even when it's so challenging from the outside, there is a seed that is planted. Now, if the parent is like, yeah, let's have you lose weight so that you can fit in, that's tricky. That's a tricky slope, right? That is something that it would have to be on a person, child to child basis if that would actually be helpful or not. I don't know how that would be helpful because it's just saying that they're right and you
Mhm.
deserve to be ridiculed. Now, the important thing to realize, Steve, is that negative body image, it doesn't discriminate on what your body actually looks like. So for someone
Okay.
like me who was born thin and healthy and strong, and someone who was born in a body that is very different, right? holds a lot more weight. I can be sicker in the head, mentally sicker than that person. It doesn't matter. It actually isn't even, because it's not even really about our body. It's about our self-worth. It's how we feel about ourselves. It's us buying into the narrative that our body matters, which is what I did.
So what was that impact? We got about 2 or 3 minutes left. What was that impact moment for you? Was there something that traumatic happened to you in the past that just awakened you?
So what happens is with food and body image, it isn't a huge traumatic experience. It's one thing after another after another. It
Mm.
is, I don't like my body. Let's diet. And then the insanity and the obsession of that. Then what happens is the binging and the purging and the over exercising. And then it's eating perfectly and obsessing about eating perfectly and obsessing about eating that dill pickle that now I'm going to die over and I'm disgusting and there's something wrong with me. And now I just forget it. I'm just going to eat all this stuff. Right. So what happens is it's a slow burn of an addiction. And then all of a sudden you realize, wow, all of a sudden I realize, wow, like there's something really wrong here. So this isn't something, and when, if you read my book, which is behind me, you'll see that it's not, it's, my story isn't like a rags to riches, like there's so much trauma. No, this is a story that men are being poured on, that it's normal to be obsessed about our body. It's normal to be worried about what we're eating. And so I had two dark nights of the soul that hit me. One was when I ate so much and was so sick, and was one of those moments where I was like, okay, this is my life. I'm always going to be here. I'm disgusting. I'm gross. I will never fix this. And that led me to say, no, I'm going to gear myself up and I'm going to lose all this weight and I'm going to control myself. And I did. And I got super thin, probably thinner than I'd ever been. And then that dark night of the soul was when I was thinner than I'd ever been. And I was the most unhappy that I'd ever been in my life. And that was when I realized that my body filled up with all this food, and my body at the thinnest that I thought that it was going to give me the happiness, neither one of those was what it was. It was about healing from the inside out. So that is when I realized that, no, I got to go deeper in. This is a deeper journey. This isn't about the food and the body. There's something inside that needs to be looked at and cared for.
And that's a perfect ending to this podcast, so that we want our listeners to come back to, how did you defeat this? How did you overcome it? What are some suggestions or ways that, people can get out of this trap? If you can do it, then anybody could. That's a great question to look at. Until next time, take care and God bless. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode on Coach Soul. As we wrap up, we want to remind our listeners of a few key points. This podcast is for informational purposes only and does not substitute professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. The content shared here is based on professional opinion but may not apply to everyone's situation. Always consult with a qualified healthcare provider before making changes to your mental health care. If you're in a crisis, please seek immediate professional help or contact a crisis hotline. Listening to this podcast does not create a therapist-client relationship. For personal advice, please consult with your licensed mental health professional in your area. Remember, your mental health journey is unique. While we hope this information is helpful, it is crucial to work directly with the qualified personnel for your specific needs. Thank you again for tuning in to Coach Soul, and we'll see you next time.